I'm Cindy Briggs, and this is Soldier's Heart. The first time I left the United States, I was 20 years old. One night in late January, I got on a plane in Washington, D.C. with my college roommate, Maura, and we flew all night to Paris, France. There was nothing dramatic or scary about the trip. We were headed overseas with a group from our college for the semester. We'd take French language classes, learn about politics and art. We looked forward to weekend trips to Amsterdam and the coast. There was nothing at all scary about it, yet I was scared. It was my first time being so far away from home for so long. I cried as I hugged my parents goodbye, but I tried not to show it. I think about that goodbye often when I listen to World War II veterans talk about their leaving. Most of them were just out of high school. Most had never left their state. Some hadn't left their home county. It was right after the Great Depression, after all, and there was no money for such luxuries for most of these families. Yet these young men and women, kids really, got on trains and ships and left home with no idea if or when they would ever come back. So then after basic training, you were shipped out to the Pacific, is that right?
I went out, yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And did you ever, was there any point that you started to feel a little nervous about what you had signed up for?
I don't think I felt that nervous other than the fact I was hoping that I could somehow or other eliminate the possibility of being permanently injured.
Yes.
Because you knew that could happen, and I was always thinking about the possibility of something, cutting an arm off or a leg, something like that. And you saw that, some of that happen, of course. Not a lot, but some. And that's just one of those things that's part of war.
Yeah, sure is. What do you remember about your trip out to the Pacific? I imagine you took a train from Texas out to California, and then you took a ship over to...
Yeah, you followed it right up to the nth degree.
Okay. What do you remember about all of that?
I just remember that it was sad, because we wondered if we'd ever come back. Didn't say much about it, but you thought about it.
I trained and went across states to San Diego.
Was that your first time out of North Carolina to go to the West Coast?
Yeah.
Wow. What did you think about everything that you saw?
I thought we would never get through Texas. And it was so long because we'd wake up and we'd ask the porter, where are we at? I said, in Texas. three mornings in a row in Texas. God, how are we ever going to get through Texas? But anyway, we stopped in New Orleans, and then it was at the train yard, and we were dirty as all get out. And so we took a shower. I mean, just right out, we found a hose and water supply. But all of us guys, a bunch of us took a shower. We're out there nude and traffic going by. We didn't care. We were going overseas.
When we got ready to leave San Francisco, they came out the morning we was to leave and gave the pilot a sealed envelope. And they said, do not open this envelope until you get in the air. So he opened it and got in the air, and it said, go to El Paso, Texas. And that's all we knew. And that El Paso, Texas, the same thing happened. We got ready to go, they gave him another sealed envelope. So we just went one day at a time, and we never knew where we were going because things were supposed to be secret. So we did that all the way over until the last one when we Kunming, China is where we landed the last time.
I landed at Coral Beach. It was called Coral Beach because when the infantry landed there, there was a lot of bloodshed. You asked me what it was like. It was, I mean, you know, when you're 18 years old, you're 9 foot tall and bulletproof. I mean, you don't, naturally you were apprehensive, but I went over that rope ladder just like, even though I was a medic, we carried guns. The medics didn't. Now, my brother was a combat medic, but he didn't carry a gun. He was not allowed to carry a gun. He had a band on him that said he was a medic. And he was right up on the front line taking care of the boys that were injured. Now, we were not allowed to have anything red on us. That would just be a target for a Jap, you know. We had no protection, the medics didn't in the Southwest Pacific. They did not adhere to the Geneva Conference. Well, we couldn't have anything on us or any of our vehicles that indicated we were medics. They'd shoot us quicker than they would an infantryman, because we might save 5 other lives, you know. We were told when we landed, when we pulled in, to put a round in the chamber and put in a full clip and take the safety off, because we didn't know what we were going to get into. So that's the way we landed in the Philippine Islands.
In those days, you didn't have weather forecasting the way you do these days. So maybe if you were one day away from a storm, you found out about it, but only by talking to other ships. But this was in the Yellow Sea off Korea, and it was a typhoon, which in the Atlantic Ocean is a hurricane. So nobody knew that this storm was sitting on top of the Yellow Sea, and here we blithely in our little tanker sailed right into it. Now 300 feet long sounds pretty big, but it was tough. It was the beginning of a 3-day ordeal. I was very good on the wheel, helmsman, very steady. I was one of the few people on board who did not get seasick. The captain and I were the only 2 who didn't get seasick. So we got into it, and we learned that, of course, that when you're in a hurricane, you head into the waves, you up and down. If you go broadside, it'll turn you over. So for 2 nights and 3 days, with some time off, I steered the ship. It was an unnerving, scary experience. And the ship got tossed about like you can't imagine. Up like this and down. And when you went down, the waves, 50-foot waves. And so we plow into them, and the water would come crashing onto the ship. We thought that we would certainly be turned over or drowned or something. And when we finally got to Incheon, Korea, the crew, everybody, went out. It was early morning, finally daylight, water's calm, and we examined the ship. It was shocking. The weight of water, you can't imagine what it does. Bends steel, shatters windows, skews ladders. We had to spend an extra 2-3 days in Korea to get the ship back in shape. But we finally did. And then we continued with our tour of the airfields.
I did have one brother that was killed in the service. He was in the Navy, and he was killed in a big battle out in the South Pacific in 1944. And I know I was talking to a good friend of mine. It was just probably not too many years back, and I don't know why he never told me this, but he said there's times when you'd be out in the Pacific, sometimes if there was a small island, that what they would do is anchor the ships and let the few boats down and let the guys go to this small island, which they had under control, and they would have some beer stored just for this occasion, because there was, you weren't allowed to bring any beer aboard the ship, but they'd bring, take some beer and take it over to this island, maybe have some food of some kind, and because sometimes your food was limited, whatever branch you were in, so I don't know, but just for a little, recreation, you could do some swimming and so forth, and with this friend of mine, he said, we were on this little island, and there must have been different ships that had anchored there, and they all came to this island, and he said, I looked, and he said, I seen this fellow walking. He said, I knew that had to be your brother. And he says, I hurried up and caught up with him and had a chance to see him. But he never did tell me that till so many years later. I don't know why, because like I said, nobody talked, too much about the service, so.
And let's see, right after Okinawa, we were on our way to hit Japan, and we was on an LSD then. My oldest brother was on that ship.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know it till we're about 3 days out of sea. And there we were. Wow. So I spent about a week and a half on that ship with him. And my younger brother was in the Navy, but he was on a destroyer. I never got to see him. But I got to see my older brother twice, once in Hawaii and then Okinawa.
We'd always pull up beside of another ship. We always say, anybody from North Carolina? Here they would come, And then you'd talk about the city, and then you'd pair off in that. But that was something else when we were overseas and pull in one of those bays. Mm-hmm. And we'd tie on to a ship that was tied on to the dock. And all of us would go to that side of the ship, almost 30 over.
While I was in, I hadn't been on the island after very long, and my brother David was over there, and he sent me a picture of him, big old fur hat with everything, snow all over him, and standing beside a Jeep. Oh man, he looked like he was really something, ready to go to battle. So I just sent him a picture after about 3 or 4 weeks when I got it. I sent him a picture of me leaning up against a palm tree with a little white hat on back here and short shorts and barefooted and just as tan as I could possibly have gotten, and leaning up at the tree and said, Dave, I miss you. And it was about 3 weeks later, he sent me a picture back of the prettiest little old French girl you've ever seen without a stitch on, and I never wrote him again. I never had a thing to do with my brother David again until we got home. But that was the three of us. Well, it's just one of those things that while we were there on Moritai, we were down on the beach one day, and all of a sudden these big ships came in, looked like Carnival Cruise or something to me, I don't know, but anyhow, it was big. That was a bigger ship came in first, and I bet 50 photographers got off of it. I don't know, they were lining the beach, and here came MacArthur. And he got up and he dropped down and he started in and, no, General, go back, you gotta go back, and he'd go back. Well, there were about 40 of us, the crew there. We were just watching all of it from a distant side, life. And we'd been there 6 weeks or more, but here comes MacArthur, here's landing. And he made such a big thing of it, about coming up and having his pipe in his mouth, and he got off and came up, and then I thought, well, that's all right, but it's still pretty pathetic, after we'd been there all that time. Here he comes, he's making his landing. Well, not more than a month later, here came the news, we had a reel about once maybe once every 2 weeks we'd have a newsreel or something and come in with a movie. We got a movie about every 2 weeks, and we didn't have an amphitheater or anything like that, just where we could sit. We were not in that movie, but they're back over here with all these photographers taking a picture of them, of the general and everything. But I'm not.
But we would fish at the dock. We'd throw a hand grenade in, and the fish, of course, would dart away from it. So we got wise enough to take a 1/4 pound of TNT and put a time charge on it and put it in the water and let the fish kind of get around it and set it off. And the fish would just boil up. We'd jump in and throw fish back. And we'd have a fish fry. And the boys at Motor Transport had built a big pan and where we fried them. And it was really good eating instead of sea rations.
Food wasn't the best. The Navy always had the best food.
Really?
Yeah. They had soft drinks, ice cream, and all of that because they could do it. But like we were on that island when they were just cooking in a covered shed or what have you, hash was the specialty there. And on the mission we had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And that was the Air Force. I call the Air Force sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly.
One morning, and I stopped off in the Philippines before Okinawa, and that was part of it. So when I was in the Philippines, it happened to be raining this one morning, and our cook prepared a breakfast that I'll never forget. It was scrambled eggs, and I had a steel helmet on, and that steel helmet was the only protection I had for that morning. Anyway, I'm trying to eat my scrambled eggs, water running off my steel helmet into my little metal kit there. So I got them ate, but it was cold too, and rainy. It was the worst meal I ever had.
That sounds sad. Kind of a depressing meal.
But I thought about that today, or yesterday.
Picture that rain.
Yeah, rain was just coming down into my eggs.
What did you serve for breakfast?
Powdered eggs. Nobody never ate them. We'd have powdered eggs, or we'd have pancakes and toast.
Did you have coffee in the morning?
Oh yes, we had coffee all day.
Gotcha. Was it instant or was it instant coffee or was it ground coffee?
Oh, the beans, we'd have to grind the beans. It was good coffee. It was strong.
Yeah, that's the best kind.
Kunming, China is where we landed last time. We got there at night, and they had the PX open, so we could go in and eat. So we went in, got in line, and went down. I told the man I wanted a coffee. He said, "I don't blame you. I'd like to have some too." I said, "We don't even have coffee over here." He said, "Well, you have tea or nothing or water." And I never drink tea, and still don't. So I drank water.
picture how you lived in the jungle. Did you have tents? Did
Yeah, we had tents. I mean, there was time you slept on the ground. Of course, you know, if you're moving now, you can't carry a tent on your back. If you carry a half tent, we call it a half shelter. I carry this half and you carry that half. We put it together, we make a tent. Every man had half of the shelter in his backpack. Usually had something, that old chocolate candy, a bar about that long, about that square. It'd break your teeth, but at least you could survive off of it a while.
And what was your role on the plane, on the B-24?
Nose gunner right here.
I have to say that terrifies me a little bit.
Well, yeah, I have been terrified, but you don't get terrified when you're busy. You don't get terrified until you start back. After it's all over, the mission's over, and you start back, things settle down, and you kind of get nervous. So when you walk into, they have a debriefing. As soon as you get back, the whole group goes in, and you tell them what happened, what we did, what we thought we had bombed, and also. And but as we walked in, they gave you a jigger of whiskey, and that kind of settled you down. I didn't like the stuff, but I did. We pulled 43 missions, so I drank 43 of them. But it didn't make a drunkard out of me. I never did like it after that.
But when you got back from a mission, before you went into briefing, they always give you a little shot of whiskey. I went through that line 3 times that first time out. But,
Did it help?
Oh yeah, it calmed your nerves a little bit.
Thank you to the veterans who shared their stories for this chapter. Lauren Ashley, Army. Jimmy Weevil, Marine Corps. J.B. Caldwell, Army Air Corps. Corbett Walters, Army. Alan Peterson, Navy. Elwin Carew, Merchant Marines. Mike Filippelli, Army. Buddy Robinson, Navy. John Caudle, Army Air Corps. Whitty Harris, Navy. Soldier's Heart is written and produced by me, Cindy Briggs, and features veteran stories from North Carolina. We honor vets by listening to their stories. You can follow along on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Soldier's Heart NC. If you have an idea for a story or interview, email us at soldiersheartnc@gmail.com. Special thanks to the Winston-Salem Muse of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where all these stories are archived. You can learn more about the museum at musews.org. That's musews.org.